Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing an Ancient Gear deck profile. So this deck just got Ancient Gear Ballista in Dual Overload, and this deck is really good now. It was good before as an OTK making deck, but this deck is really crazy now. And I'm super excited to do this profile for you guys because I absolutely love Ancient Gears and think that they really needed a Link monster that does what this card does. It helps us add Ancient Gears from deck to hand, and it lets us pop cards on our side of the field to be able to resolve effects. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely check out the Patreon and the Ko-Fi down in the description below if you guys would like to donate to the channel, because every time you guys donate to the channel, it really helps out. And let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing just a single copy of Ancient Gear Golem. So you only need really one copy of this. You can play two, but I actually play a single copy of Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound as well. So they both basically share the same abilities, that they inflict piercing damage and they can't be special summoned by or they can't be special summoned, but there's cards in this deck that bypass that special summoning means. But they also has the ability that if this card attacks a defense position monster, you inflict piercing damage. But Ultimate Pound has some added abilities that has the ability that up to twice per turn, when this card attacks and destroys a monster by battle, you can discard a machine, and this card can attack again in a row. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. And if you do, you get to add another Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. We don't play polymerization here, but being able to attack multiple times is really nice. Then we play two copies of Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. Basically, you just special summon this card from your deck, and it has different abilities that lets it, if this card was tribute summoned by tributing an Ancient Gear monster, which you're usually never going to tribute it, it can inflict piercing damage. But the cool effect about this card is that it has the ability that your opponent cannot, let's see, where is it? If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. And at the end of the damage step, this card attacks, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field. So it pops spells and traps, which is really helpful. And then we play three copies of Ancient Gear Wyvern. Wyvern is super helpful because when it's normal or special summon, you get to add an Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand, which it could be any Ancient Gear card, which is really pivotal to be able to get out this card. And it also has the ability that when this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate their effects until the end of the damage step. Then we play two copies of Ancient Gear Frame. Ancient Gear Frame is really a neat card. I just feel like two is plenty of this card. I kind of want to play it at three, but I feel like two is fine. You can discard a card to add an Ancient Gear Golem or a spell card that specifically lists Ancient Gear Golem, which is usually our copy of Ancient Gear Fusion. And then it has the ability also that you can only use this effect once per turn, and if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or spells or traps until the end of the damage step. And if this face-up card if this face-up card in its owner's possession leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon up to 3 Ancient Gear Golems and Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. So it replaces itself with Ancient Gear Golem if that Ancient Gear Golem happens to be in your hand. Then we play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Hunting Hound is like polymerization with legs. If this card is normal summon, you can inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent. And then it also has the ability that once per turn, you can fusion summon an Ancient Gear Fusion monster using monsters from your hand or field as materials as well. Then we play a single copy of Ancient Gearbox. I just feel like one Gearbox is fine. If this card is added from your deck to your hand, you can except by drawing it, you can add an Earth Machine monster with 500 attack or defense from your deck to your hand, which is really helpful in this deck. So then I'm playing my own personal tech cards in this deck, which is 3 copies of Super Express Bullet Train. This card is really good in this deck. It's surprisingly good because it lets you go into the train engine as well, which is neat. It can't declare an attack unless you send 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard, but the neat effect is that it special summons itself if you control an Earth Machine monster, which is really neat because then you can use this as link material to summon your Ancient Gear Ballista, or go into your train engine, which is your Gustav Max, Juggernaut Libby, and number 81, which helps us out a lot. And then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, because it was sent there this turn, you can target another machine monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. This card's really good in the deck. Basically, you don't worry about its attacking. You just want to put it on the field and link it away, and then get that add at the end phase, and be able to use it as a material for Ancient Gear Ballista. Because Ballista just requires 2 Ancient Gear, or 2 Earth Machines, and this is an Earth Machine. Then I play 3 copies of Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede. Stampede is really good in this deck as well, because basically what this card does is if this card is normal or special summon, you can target an Earth Machine monster except another copy of itself, and special summon it in defense position, but negate its effects, and then you can target one other machine monster you control, and the level of that monster and this card's level become the same, which is really cool. Which is really, really cool. Like, I really love that because you can just target this, and this card's level becomes the same as that. So both become level 10, which is really neat. And you can only use the effect, or you cannot declare attacks for the rest of the turn except with XYZ monsters, which if you're going to do that, you're always going to go for your copy of Juggernaut Libby, which is really, really nice. So that's it for the monster, guys. You can add in Decacrane if you want to by dropping like Ancient Gearbox, but I really just didn't want to, so I kind of just kept it at the ratio that I had it at. So that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Just helps us get into our copy of Gear Town just a little bit faster. One copy of Overload Fusion, which helps us get into our copies of Ancient Gear Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. This card's really helpful because if you have 4 Ancient Gears in your graveyard, you use the Overload Fusion and immediately go for the Ancient Gear Chaos Giant, which is really nice. 2 copies of Twin Twister. This is not only to pop your opponent's back row, but it also helps popping our cards like Gear Town and Fortress to special summon other Ancient Gear monsters from our deck, which is really, really helpful. We play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fusion. Now, I know that this card is really expensive right now. I think they're going for like $50 each right now. But don't worry, this card is going to get a reprint soon. In the they're doing a reprint of the first and second Legendary Duelist, and so I really think that they're going to reprint this card, and I'm really glad that they are, because this card desperately needs a reprint. I'm glad I picked them up when I did early, when I paid like $25 each for them, but this card is ridiculously expensive because it was short printed too, which is just crazy to me. This card's effect lets you fusion summon a fusion monster or Ancient Gear fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. And if you're using an Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound you control as a fusion material, you can also fusion summon by using materials that are in your deck. So basically, if you're using an Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, you just immediately go for the Chaos Giant because you send 4 Ancient Gears from your deck to the graveyard, or from your field to the graveyard, or whatever you need with the Ultimate Pound and stuff like that. And it just really, really helps out. This card's searchable, so you could probably get away with 1 copy if you had to, but you need at least 1 copy. Then we play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Catapult. Catapult is really good and helps us out a little bit with the tokens as well, to be able to link them away for the Ballista. But basically what this card does is when you control no monsters, you can target a card your opponent, 1 card you control, and if you do, and destroy it, then special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Then you can also banish this card. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and then target a card on you control and destroy it. And if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear token, which basically you can special summon your Ancient Gear Golem off of this, which is really, really cool. And you can also summon the token that helps us go into Ballista, which is a really, really, really helpful play, because Ballista turns into basically the starter of the entire deck, like the mid extender of the deck would be more an accurate statement. Then for the other spells, we're playing 3 copies of Gear Town. Gear Town's really good because it lets you tribute summon an Ancient Gear monster for 1 less tribute, and it also has the ability that when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or grave, which is usually going to be our Reactor Dragon, or Wyvern or something like that, to be able to get all of our different plays off, which is really, really helpful. We play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Fortress. Now, I see some people playing this card at 2, but I feel like 3 is the better number, because during either player's turn when you normal or special summon, during the player's turn when you normal or special summon, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your Ancient Gear cards or effects. And if this card is destroyed in your spell and trap card zone, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster in your hand or graveyard, and you cannot special summon monsters turn except for Ancient Gear monsters. Now that's really a good effect to be able to just summon all those monsters, and it really helps out. Then we play 3 copies of Urgent Schedule because it is an Earth Machine monster deck. This card really helps out because you can set it on your turn and activate it during your opponent's end phase. And if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you just special summon 1 level 4 or lower and 1 level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck, and defense system but negate their effects, and they cannot declare an attack the turn. So basically it's a 1-card Ancient Gear Ballista, which is really good. And if this set card on the field is sent to the graveyard, you can add an Earth Machine monster that's level 10 from your deck to your hand, which is going to be our Express Train. And then we play 3 copies of Call by the Grave, because you need the copies of Call by the Grave to negate your opponent's hand traps, because you're going to be special summoning from deck a lot, which is really good. So that's it for all the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So it is basically an OTK based deck, so you're going to be playing no traps. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Ancient Gear Ballista. I feel like 2 is plenty in this deck because you're only ever going to summon it maybe twice. If you feel like you need 3, definitely play 3. But you send 2 Earth Machine monsters to the graveyard to summon this card, and if it's link summon, you get to add an Ancient Gear monster or a Gear Town from your deck to your hand. And then you can also target a spell or trap card you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy the card on your side of the field, and if you do, then your opponent's monster's attack becomes 0, which helps us OTK so much faster. 1 copy of Cross Sheep, because we do fusion summon in this deck, you want to play the 1 copy of Cross Sheep. If you want to drop the Cross Sheep and play another copy of Ballista, I rarely go into Cross Sheep, but since it's a fusion deck, I kind of wanted to have it. Verte Anaconda is really good because you can send your copy of Ancient Gear Fusion to the graveyard and then resolve it like this card was Ancient Gear Fusion. That's what I was saying. You could get away with 1 copy. If you wanted to get away with 1 copy, you could just use this. If you want to play a budget build of this deck, you can drop the 2 Ancient Gear Fusions for polymerizations. If you really, really, really want to play this deck, you can do that. And it's an option, or you can play Ultra Polymerization or something like that. You can find alternatives for it. So for the Fusion monsters, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. This card's crazy. 4,500. It's a 1-card OTK card. It must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways, and it's unaffected by the effects of spell and trap cards. And your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. And this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if it attacks, it inflicts piercing damage. This card is an absolute beast of a card. It is insane in OTKs like crazy. 1 copy of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. This card's really nice to summon. I love this card. It's an OG card, and it's just such a neat card to summon. It inflicts piercing damage, and it also has the ability that if this card is destroyed, you can special summon an Ancient Gear Golem from your graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. The only bad thing about this card is it does require Ancient Gear Golem to summon it, and 2 Ancient Gear monsters, which is not terrible, but it does come up where you don't want to put that into it. But this card's really good because it does replace itself. 1 copy of Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Megaton Golem is really good as well because if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps in the end of the damage step. And if this card's fusion summoned, you can using 2 or more Ancient Gear Golems and or Ultimate Paladins as materials, it can attack up to that many times, and during each of your battle phases, if this fusion summon card in its owner's possession leaves the field, because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra, ignoring summoning conditions. So you can float from Megaton into Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, which is usually what I do with this card. Then I play 3 copies of Howitzer. I know that seems like a little excessive, but you don't really need that much of the extra deck anyways, so why not play Howitzer? Howitzer is really good because you can fusion summon it using 2 Ancient Gear monsters, and it's affected by all card effects, and during the main phase, you can inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. And then also has the ability that if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to your graveyard, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So basically, you summon this card as bait for your opponent to destroy, and if they don't destroy it, you're going to be constantly burning them for 1,000. So this card is really good for that ability. Then we play the Train Engine, which is Gustav Max to burn our opponent for 2,000. We're playing the single copy of number 81 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora. Super Dora just makes itself immune to everything. 1 copy of Juggernaut Libby just to help us OTK just that much more in case we need that 6,000 attack point monster that can attack multiple times. And then a single copy of Ravenous Tarantula. Sometimes if your life points are lower than your opponent, you're going to surprise your opponent by summoning this. And when you put it on the field, it's like, man, I'm going to gain all the attack points. Because it lets all your monsters gain attack points equal to the difference between your life points and your opponent's life points, which is really cool. And every time they special summon a monster, they lose 600 life points, and then you can detach a material from this card and then destroy all monster opponent controls with less attack than this card's, which is really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's kind of like Train Ancient Gears, but it really works this way because you're trying to get those Earth Machines. Like, the trains are kind of like an afterthought, because you really want to summon this card over and over and over again as your first card that you're going to summon, because it searches your Ancient Gear cards like your copy of Wyvern, and then you go this Wyvern and then search the rest of your deck for like Ancient Gear Fusion and stuff like that. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and it's really easy to play too. Basically, you're just going to Fusion Summon and OTK your opponent with it. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad. Definitely tell me what you think of this video, and check out the Patreon and Ko-Fi down in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you, guys.